Mud, happy Halloween. It's October 31st and this is my cheat sheet. Actually, nothing too scary on it today. In fact, some things that have been scary for some people won't be here after today after all. Namely, debit card programs at Chase and Wells Fargo. On Friday, those two big banks mentioned that they'd heard that you weren't too happy about the idea of some of these bank card fees. And so, as the free market so often will do, they weighed the consequences and they have decided to dump their pilot debit card fee programs. Neither bank had them nationwide yet. That was going to hit in January. They canceled the test markets, and they're saying that going forward there will be no debit card fees at Chase and Wells. Now, this doesn't mean that some other fees might not pop up and that the barometer to avoid fees with having savings accounts or checking accounts open will be any easier. Quite the contrary. So if you are with one of these banks, you still want to make sure that you're not getting nailed with fees somewhere else. Meanwhile, Bank of America is finding new ways for their customers to avoid getting these debit card fees starting in January. I was taking a look over some of my bank stuff too, and I got to tell you, you really need to ask the questions if you have questions. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting nailed with fees somewhere along the way. It's kind of hard to understand it all anymore. There is a direct connection between the quality of a workplace and employee happiness. More than 4,000 employees were studied for this. It was the most comprehensive study to date on employee satisfaction. And we've talked before about how pay is actually not the #1 driver of employee happiness. I mean, look, it's in everybody's top 5, but oftentimes it's not even in the top 3. In this particular case, the most important factor to employee happiness, when you look at the entire economy, is the quality of the workplace. Now, sometimes people say they're proud of where they work. They really mean it. And if you're an employer, look, if you put a little extra into the TLC of your facility and also the little extras that you do to make your employees feel special, look, it's the #1 thing these days. iPhone 4S battery life. I had 2 dreams last night that I had an iPhone 4S, which I don't. I have a 4. Jim Edwards has the iPhone 4S. But there's a battery life issue with this one that is separate from the iPhone 4 battery life issues that I talked about last week. This one in particular, there's a new setting on it, and the same issues apply. Turn off everything on your iPhone 4S that you don't necessarily need because it's using battery life. But in this one, it has an auto time zone feature that is automatically on at all times. If you're not traveling between time zones, if you disable this feature, then you will be saving one of the bigger drains on battery life because every several seconds it's looking for a new time zone, and obviously for most people that's not effectual. Just keep in mind that when you are traveling to another time zone, turn that thing back on or else you know where that one goes. Samsung passed Apple as the #1 overall smartphone manufacturer last quarter. Now, I expect that Apple, with the iPhone 4S, will get it back from Samsung, but what it shows you is that there is so much room in the smartphone market that Samsung, which is the top Android smartphone maker, did pass Apple in smartphone market share. In fact, Samsung improved year-over-year sales 44% to become #1 last quarter, in the 3rd quarter. So there is definitely a horse race between Android and iPhone, and it's Samsung and it's Apple. Not that Motorola doesn't have its groove back, because I do think that the 2 most recent Motorola phones are pretty good products. And here's another one that's somewhat Apple related, actually quite a bit. People who use Macs at work are more productive than PC users. I thought of this one because it was just last week I was actually telling Jim, I wonder how much productivity we lose in our workplace with some antiquated technology. I mean, look, honestly, and this isn't unique to us, some of our computers that we use around here, they're a number of years old, and they don't keep up with all the modern technology at the speed we always like. That really has a lot to do with why these Macs are so effective. It really comes down to ease of use and allowing people to do multiple things at once, maximizing productivity. So while a lot of companies traditionally have shied away from Macs because of a more expensive price tag and just the whole being familiar thing with Windows and the PCs, there is a case to be made that bringing Macs into the workplace can increase productivity. So you take a one-time expense with a more expensive computer and make your employees more productive every day of the week. Interesting read if you're an employer. Check out the physical cheat sheet today. And could it be the end of 24-hour retail outlets? Walmart cutting back more and more 24-hour stores. It looks like the only thing that could be 24/7 in the future would end up being online shopping, and that's really why this is going to be cut back. That's the cheat sheet for today. We'll see you tomorrow.